You know, few historical figures have accumulated more myths, misquotes, and just wild internet legends than Nikola Tesla. Welcome to this explainer. Now, our goal today isn't to diminish Tesla's absolute genius, not at all. Instead, we're embarking on a strict evidence-first forensic investigation. We really want to understand what's actually documented in the historical archives, what's simply attributed to him, and what internet culture has completely, well, invented after the fact.
Okay, so let's dive right into this by looking at one of the most famous quotes attributed to Tesla online. I guarantee you've probably seen this exact sentence slapped over a picture of a galaxy on an inspirational poster or floating around your social media feeds. It sounds profound, right? And it perfectly aligns with this modern perception of Tesla as a mystical visionary. But it sets up a really fascinating conflict between primary historical sources and internet mythology.
So, did Nikola Tesla actually say this? It's a massive question, and to answer it, we're going to act as historical investigators. We need to look past the memes and literally separate documented, verifiable facts from digital fiction. And hey, whenever the evidence is uncertain today, we are going to clearly state that it is uncertain, no guessing. Let's find out together what the history really says.
Section 1. Decoding the FBI files. Let's take a look at the government archives.
Now, government files on Nikola Tesla absolutely exist. That's a fact. But just because a government file is real, that doesn't automatically validate wild conspiracy theories about secret death rays or confiscated alien tech. What's really interesting here is the number 3. The official FBI vault, which is our canonical, verified government archive source, contains exactly 3 public file parts on Nikola Tesla. The whole thing. This isn't a secret either. You can go look at the public archive page right now.
Let's break down exactly what is inside these files. Part 01 is the largest, sitting at 249 pages, and it requires the most priority review. But look at Parts 02 and 03. Early extraction shows that Part 02 contains heavily redacted material, but it's referencing the American Slav Congress in Detroit in 1942. Part 03? That contains a 1957 New York file related to an interplanetary session newsletter. So in other words, these sections contain tangential correspondence and administrative context. They're definitely not the blueprints for a suppressed sci-fi superweapon.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that a government file's mere existence does not equate to proof of hidden technology. The myth claims these files prove the FBI hoarded secret Tesla tech, but the actual evidence shows that the currently reviewed material is administrative, it's contextual, or it involves much later public correspondence. This is exactly why page-level verification is completely vital before making sweeping historical claims.
Moving on to Section 2, Disciplined Mental Prototyping. Let's dive right into Tesla's mindset. To understand how Tesla actually thought, we've got to look past the myths and turn to his autobiography, My Inventions. But first, we have to establish the primary source trail. This wasn't just a book that popped out of nowhere. It was originally a serial published in the Electrical Experimenter magazine back in 1919, across 6 distinct chapters. It was later republished in book form, like the 1982 Hart Brothers edition. But I really have to give you a warning here. Early internet versions of this text, sometimes circulating under completely different titles, contain omissions and totally unverified additions. So we really have to rely on the original trail.
In these authenticated writings, Tesla actually described his own invention process. Take a look at this quote fragment. "I do not rush into actual work, building it up in my imagination." It's incredible. Tesla basically treated his imagination like an internal engineering simulator. He didn't just stumble around a workshop doing trial and error. He spent an enormous amount of time working out the mechanics entirely inside his own head.
Let's see how this builds a highly documented workflow, which we're going to call disciplined mental prototyping. Tesla's own autobiographical claim outlines these 6 steps. He would form the idea, mentally construct the device, internally refine and modify it, mentally operate it to see if it was out of balance, and only then would he move to physical construction and real-world testing. It's a remarkably structured process. And this brilliantly illustrates a key distinction. You see, the myth is that Tesla possessed magical, supernatural cognition or had a literal modern computer simulation running in his brain. But the evidence? It shows that he used a deliberate, highly disciplined cognitive simulation. It was an incredible skill, absolutely, but it wasn't magic. And crucially, it did not replace the need for physical, real-world testing at the end of the day.
Which brings us to Section 3, the unverified quote problem. Welcome to internet mythology.
This really brings us to a massive linguistic mess online, where things are constantly attributed to Tesla that he may never have even said. It's kind of fascinating to see how history drifts over time. In this explainer, we're applying a really rigorous standard. We use a historian's term called page pending. What this means is a quote has strong source attribution, like we know it comes from the My Inventions tradition, but the exact original 1919 magazine scan hasn't been locked down and visually verified just yet. We do this for sure to ensure we never present speculation as absolute fact.
So let's look at our verification bank. Phrases like running a turbine in thought or being able to operate the device entirely in my mind are strong. They align perfectly with his documented method, but their exact original page scans are still pending. But look at that bottom bullet, that incredibly famous quote we started with about energy, frequency, and vibration, the one that's literally all over the internet. It is completely unverified. There is no reliable primary source citation found for it anywhere in his established writings. Isn't that wild?
So how exactly do quotes like that become accepted as absolute truth? Well, it's a textbook case of how historical myths are manufactured today. Someone misremembers an old interview, it gets turned into a meme, it lands on a quote aggregation website, and then it gets reposted by millions of people who just never bother to check the original source. It spreads like wildfire.
As critical thinkers, we've got to remember this golden rule. Widespread popularity is not the same thing as historical verification. Just because a quote has 1 million likes on a beautiful picture of the cosmos doesn't actually mean Nikola Tesla wrote it.
All right, Section 4, Lessons from the Evidence. What do we actually learn from all this?
So, where does this leave us? Well, if we take away the unverified quotes, the conspiracy boards, and all the exaggerated alien imagery, what are we left with? We're actually left with something incredibly valuable. Tesla's documented work teaches us highly practical, powerful principles. He embodied boundless curiosity, relentless persistence, and deep first principles thinking. His real, verified process of mental rehearsal and creative experimentation is honestly far more useful to modern creators and engineers than any sci-fi myth out there.
To wrap things up, the core takeaway of this explainer is simple. Tesla does not need myths to be remarkable. The FBI files are real, sure, but they are mostly administrative and contextual, not sensational. His mental visualization was a profound, disciplined practice, not magic. And some of his most famous quotes, well, they simply aren't his. True historical evidence is far more fascinating and frankly much more useful than internet drift.
I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder. What do you think is more fascinating? The towering science fiction myths that internet culture has created about Tesla, or the verified, disciplined ideas the man actually left behind? Let me know your thoughts on this, and until next time, keep looking for the evidence.